So, hello everyone, and welcome to Elixir Berlin February edition 2021, the first Elixir Berlin meetup this year. Thanks for all of you who are joining or will be watching this later on. So, like, if you are looking for the Wi-Fi password and like network name, it's probably the one of your home. So that's yeah. Then basically, so today I would like to remind you and ask you to follow us on social media, mainly Twitter and GitHub. So for GitHub, we have some interesting projects there. For example, like there is one that combines a list of companies using Elixir. So if you are looking for a job or looking for people, if you're looking for a job, then have a look at that list. And if you are looking for people who want to work with Elixir, maybe you should add your company to this list. There also, please, if you haven't already, join our Discord channel. Yeah, so, and we are present on other social media, maybe not as active, but yeah, so Twitter, GitHub, and Discord, Meetup are definitely the ones that we are present pretty much. Then today we have a live session, so we are streaming everything on YouTube. All the talks will be streamed there, and afterwards also you will be able to rewatch them if you want. And the Q&A session and also hangout between the talks or afterwards is going to happen inside our Discord channel or Discord room. So please join it. Please join it now if you haven't already. So we have a general chat room there where you can just communicate and ask questions to the speakers. At the end of every talk, the speakers will look at the questions asked in the general chat and then answer those on the live stream. Yeah. So once again, please join the Discord channel if you haven't done that already. Then the plan for today. Today we have 2 talks. The first one is going to be about web archiving with Dust by Sultan. And then the second one will be writing desktop applications in Elixir by Dominic. So if you have talk ideas, lightning talks or full-length talks, please feel free to reach out to any of us on GitHub, meetup.com, or like Discord, wherever you can find us, me, Milad, and Iona. And yeah, reach out to us. So we are constantly looking for people who want to share their projects, their ideas, or even if you have just ideas of things you would like to hear about, we can find people who can talk about that. Then once again, the Q&A sessions are going to happen on Discord. When you write questions on Discord in the general chat, please make sure you add like a capital Q in front of those so that it is easier for the speaker to identify them between other messages. And basically, let's check whether the speakers are ready.
Hello, this is my first streaming, so don't beat it hard. My name is Sultan, and today here I'm to represent the state of web archiving and why it is used, and the state of the ecosystem in Elixir. So let's go. And why people do archiving or do web archiving in general is because, for example, there might be different laws and regulations and enforcements. For example, in the United States, you might be required to preserve all of your activities online, all of your for example, accounting or all of your public activities over time, and for this reason it might be also one of the reasons why companies or people might want to use. The second one might be investigative, when some investigations are going on, some online resources are involved, so often web archives also help with this. And the third one might be, for example, passive threat detection. For example, if you are a popular blogger, then you might want to put on there a periodical observation of your website to see what is changing, how it changed, and to analyze it over time. And the next reason is information depositing. It is, for example, national libraries using web archiving to preserve the history of the internet and all sorts of data mining activities. And the last thing might be, for example, for money. You might be tasked with some you might be doing this for money, and all sorts of other reasons. So the next one is the ecosystem in Elixir, and in general in open source community. In Elixir, it is quite poor, except some HTTP clients and some readers for web archive formats. The most mature is the Python community with Scrapey and all sorts of plugins to it, and a lot more than Ruby. Ecosystem seem to be okayish, but it is not developed as Python. And the archive community, which is like diverse, but it is not wide open to people. And you might also find a lot of utilities to parse, analyze, and load and compile web archive files and view them in your browsers, but they are also not so like widely known to people, except if you are not specializing in web archiving. So let's go next. And state of Elixir world, it is not so bright, I'd say. There are viewers, there are some parsers, and there are no tools to make complete snapshots of the web pages, and there are different issues with web clients, with HTTP clients, and HTTP clients, some of them using Hackney as a base client, and all sorts of issues are coming with Hackney on top of it, and this makes things a bit hard. But I wanted to create a library which will allow you to make snapshots of the web pages, snapshots of the web pages in a way that you can see resources, images, scripts, styles, SVG files, and fonts and whatnot in a more digestible way, which you can use. And then, for example, someone tomorrow might want to write web archive file parser, and for that reasons I'm going to the next slide, which is about HTTP clients and problematic areas. HTTP clients in Elixir are a bit of like crystal spheres. You never know what kind of issues might pop up at some point in the future. So, for example, I was using HTTP Poison as an HTTP library, which uses Hackney as a base library and builds on top of it. And after some time, I discovered that it has issues with proxies, it has issues with redirects, and it has combined issues with redirects and proxies. When you use proxies and you set redirect rules, it just does not respect proxies, and you have to write workarounds around them and do a lot of heavy lifting around it. And one of the big issues I faced with it was saturation of worker pools of Hackney, because it uses Gen servers to split up the workload, and the pools not often but sometimes might become like saturated, and your system becomes unresponsive. So for this I did find quite nice workarounds, except like deploying the system as often as possible. And all of the HTTP libraries like Mint, Gun, or Tesla in Elixir, they are almost, except Hackney, they are not supporting SOX proxies, and it makes utilization of them for the purposes of web archiving and monitoring a bit hard. And also half of them built on top of Hackney, which also brings the problems which I already told about. And let's go next. So for that reason I created my library called Dust, and you can find it in GitHub. And what it essentially does, it is just a simple HTTP client which takes a link to the web page and fetches the complete web page and makes a complete snapshot of it, which returns HTML page with inlined images, inline CSS files, inline JavaScript files, and favicon icons. And so far it works okay. It was inspired. I was inspired by a Rust library called Monolith, but it focuses on parsing HTML tree structure in a semantical manner, so building a complete AST structure and working with it. But for archiving and making snapshots of web pages, you don't need it. You just need to extract resources from the web pages and combine them and put them together back. So if you're interested in this, you can find this in my GitHub, and it is still like in some development state, and I'm still working on some aspects on it. And as I said, it is just a library to make complete snapshots of web pages. And here are my learnings. The first one was off-the-shelf immediate issue that I faced when, for example, you are fetching huge web pages like 5 megabytes or 10 megabytes. Then it becomes a bit problematic to work with string data, because every time when you join the string or concatenate the strings, Elixir or Erlang behind copies it every time, and the memory usage is just exploding, and at some point your system again becomes unresponsive. So after some reading, I found out that IO lists or IO data is a particularly performant way of using strings in Elixir, because operating with lists of strings and joining them as IO list is better than having like naive approach to work with strings. So it improved my performance and memory usage a lot. Regarding memory usage, I would say it is a double-edged sword, because for a big HTML pages, it might be also a high memory usage. And the second thing, initially when I started the library, I was heavy on doing detailed type hints, style specs and other things, but I buried myself on the dialyzer warnings and errors. So after some time, I just decided to lift the requirements for my own project and just keep it for myself to read and use in VS Code, just to be useful for type hinting and improved. And Hugo wrote question. I will answer once I finish all of the points, if it is okay. Also, encoding everything into base64 is also a practical way of dealing with, for example, encoding confusion problems, because web pages might come in different encodings, like for example in Russian encoding or CP1251 or in weird encoding types, and then Elixir tries to parse it as a Unicode, and then you get all sorts of errors. So to avoid this, it is better to directly encode into base64, and it will work out in most cases, in 99% of cases. And when you are doing or dealing with web archives, you have to treat everything as a resource. HTML page is a resource, image is a resource, styles, scripts are resources, and it is better. It is a better abstraction to actually handle things on the web. And if there are, for example, quick wins, for example, like I said, if you are using proxies or SOX proxies and using redirects on top of it, which Hackney is not handling now, because if you're specifying redirects and socks or whatever proxy, it drops proxy and makes requests directly. So I had to make a workaround for this. It was like 10 lines of code with exponential backoff on top of retry library. And that's it mostly. So I will read the question from Hugo. Sultan, is there a SaaS service available for web archiving? Have you thought about using your library for creating one? Yes, there are a lot of services which do web archiving or offer archiving as a service, but I sometimes do some investigative analysis, and sometimes I want to monitor some resources for some time, but not archive. But I need as much information from the web page as possible. So for that reason, I created this library. And regarding the SaaS service part, I'm working on it. I think I will show on demo part the system. So keep tight for it. It comes soon. So it is demo time. Let me switch my screen. I will. Okay. One moment. No. Okay. So this is a website or service which I'm building. Mostly alone, and this is the interface to my library, and I'm in the test run mode. So for example, let's go to Wall Street Journal. Wall Street Journal, and you can see I have different modes and a couple of proxies, and I'm running this in more like an investigative manner. Because I want to see how Wall Street Journal responds when you make direct requests from Berlin, when you make requests from New York, when you make requests from Frankfurt. And you can see the page here. The snapshot is loaded from S3 bucket, so it is not making request. It was, I think 20 minutes ago it was made, and this is a direct snapshot. And let's go, for example, for US East proxy. It is also loading from AWS S3, and some things might be missing, some things might not load, but this is what web archiving means. It is for historical reasons, and you can also see the differences in the responses and the headers. I'm preserving all of the information about the request, because, for example, it might be very important to actually replay all of the request parts in a more accurate way, like replaying the headers and replaying the content to see the page in a more or less genuine way. So that's mostly it. And for example, I'll show you a New York Times a snapshot. You see, because of some issues, it is not scraped completely. Some resources are not loading, some resources are missing, because for some resources, New York Times, they resolve it in a dynamical way, and some things are missing from my snapshot, but it is work in progress thing. And the next thing I want to show, I want to bring my terminal, because I want to show I want to demo my my Dust library. Hmm. No. One moment. So here I'm in so I'm in IXL, and yeah, I already called Dust with GitHub, and then called persist. I will call it again, and then I will open it in Chrome to see if things are persisted, and let's wait a bit. It takes some time to fetch all of the resources from the web page. Okay, it is done. I'm switching to Chrome, and I'm switching my tabs to so you can let me zoom out. So this is I zoomed out, and this is the current github.com page, and you can see the level of details and some things related to images. They are also, for example, embedded as base64 images, as I said. You can see here it is base64 image embedded directly into the page, and this way you can put it or combine everything in place, and that's what my library does. And I hope someone can build a web archive format on top of it, like a bundler and compiler of web archive files in Elixir. So that was it. Yeah, you can Google it and see it, how it consists of different sections, and resources are embedded in one file, or it might be subfolders. How it depends on your implementation, how you want to do it, but the format is defined there, and you can do it if you wish. But at the moment I don't have enough time to actually implement web archive format library compiler in Elixir. So that's it. If you have questions, please ask in Discord. I will read and answer them. And by the way, the interface was built on Phoenix using LiveView, so I quite like it. Before it was on Vue.js, but yeah, it was too much effort for me to support both parts in two different languages. Thanks. Yeah, just give me a moment. Here it is. Yeah, it is still in development process, because like for my website a service, I'm using some private version of Dust because it has a lot of fix-ups, and I think I'll put them in upstream. So, do you have more questions? It is at the moment private project because it was at the beginning, as I said, I was using it only for my own private needs, just to investigate some websites or to monitor some websites, because sometimes as a friend of mine, we are doing forensics analysis, and this tool was initially made to do forensics analysis and monitoring of critical websites. For example, maybe it's DDoS attack, or maybe like takedown or deface of the website. So periodical monitoring and making snapshots were the way to actually handle it. And it grew from that point. But at the moment, I'm thinking about having Cloud Run workers and then Elixir orchestrator to actually schedule workload on the cloud. And this is a bit far from that point. Yeah, if you have more questions, we can also write or just ping me or open an issue in GitHub. And then at this point, I think I will hand over the stream to another party. Thank you.
So hey, thank you, Sultan, for the talk. You can ask any questions that you still have to Sultan in the chat, and also maybe talk with him directly there. And then we will move on to our second talk, which will be writing desktop application with Elixir by Dominic. I'll quickly check whether Dominic is ready, and then we can move on. We'll see.
Hey guys, so thanks Hugo for turning over to me, and also thanks for the previous talk. I think that was pretty interesting on the socks part. I'm curious about that because we're doing some with socks as well. And just as Hugo said, I'm realizing that I didn't add ourselves to the jobs list, but I will definitely do this after this talk, because we actually look also for someone. So just real quick about me before I jump into the meat here. I'm Dominic Letts. I'm Chief Technology Officer of Diet, and we're using Elixir at the core to build decentralized collaboration software. So imagine Google Drive, but decentralized without central authorities. And we're also actually building a real desktop application as part of that, and so that's why I'm engaged in this. But today I want to talk about the sample app I wrote, and also some of the contributions that are coming in Erlang next up that actually makes writing desktop applications easier with Elixir. So let's go into that. So some people might know like two pretty popular Erlang applications already that are actually desktop applications. So the one is the Observer, and that's pretty well known because it's actually inside Erlang. And if you use a debugger a couple of times, you might have seen that. You can pop it up, you can do it, and it's implemented with WX widgets. It's the library below that that's actually doing it. The second application that a lot of people know is Wings 3D, and that's actually created by one of the WX widgets maintainers who's also working for Ericsson. And so this one application that runs on Windows, macOS, and Linux, and it's probably the best example of like full integration. It comes with installers and everything. Now, this is like apps, I would say, of like how they have been created so far, but there is a new standard for like the hot new apps. So you guys know Slack, you know Discord, because everything we are doing right now, for example, the chat is in Discord, or Microsoft Teams. All of these apps are actually native apps that though run basically web servers. They're like websites, HTML-based, CSS-based, and you can do modern UIs, you can do all the good stuff. And that's really where I thought, man, we have Elixir, and we have Live View, and we have all these ingredients. Why can't we do it as well? Why can't we even maybe do it better than what we see with Electron and these JavaScript apps? So these are the ingredients basically for this. We need cross-platform, of course, like it should run on macOS, Linux, and Windows. So yeah, Elixir is totally that. We need a web server that is reactive and can show us live data. So Phoenix Live View, there you go. And we need a browser view. And so we can actually embed the data that Phoenix is producing. And that's where this pull request here is coming in. So that's something that is in OTP 24. If everything goes well, the pull request is still open. You can have a look at that. I can share the link later on. And the second part is like integration with the desktop. So having notifications like something is incoming, something is happening, or like a little icon. And that's actually a pull request I also did, and that's already merged into master. So conversations are going on. I was hoping that WX Web View would have been merged by today, but it's going to be a couple of days more, I think. But let's go on. So based on this, because the branch is already there and you can compile that, and then you have all these features. Based on that, I built a small sample application to demonstrate that, but also to make it open source it so that other people can like clone the repository and try out building a desktop app themselves that is web. So of course it's a to-do application. Seems like that's the new Hello World, the to-do application, and it has a couple of components. So here we have this, the core piece is our Phoenix Live View that's actually rendering the HTML of the to-dos. That is wrapped in a WX Web View, so that's actually showing it and being the native window on the desktop. And below that we have our model. So usually when you use Live View, you use with Ecto Postgres, but because this is intended to be a desktop application, we want to ship it to someone and he's installing it, and we don't want to ship Postgres the database to like a desktop environment. So instead we're using SQLite here, and the model of the to-dos is just a SQLite database. Then that model reaches out to Phoenix pops up, and so every time there's an event, there's a change to the to-dos, we not only populate it back to the live view and what we see in the web view, but also actually to our taskbar icon or notifications, so that we have like pretty native integration. So let's look at that. And I want to jump here between like the code pieces and then how it actually looks and what it does in the real world. So the first thing here is what we need to do, and I mentioned it in the to-do live a bit. We need to host this on localhost right now. So we do it on localhost. The problem is if you do it localhost on a desktop machine, you don't actually know which ports are free and which ones are not free. So in Cowboy, which is the underlying HTTP server, we can use a random free port by specifying port 0. So that works perfectly well for Cowboy. He's happy. The problem is that Phoenix doesn't understand that, and it actually thinks it is port 0. And so if you ask it for a URL, it will give you a URL with 0 in. And so there's a little hack, and I created also like a Phoenix framework issue down here where we find in the URL the 0 and then replace it with the real port that cowboy and ranch have given our application. So little stepping stone on the way of making a native desktop app. Just to jump to that app real quick before we go. This is actually the app, how it's looking right now. And so this is just like a normal application window here on my Linux. If the remote connection is gone, this is on my Windows, and this is on my Mac here, right? So this is just a normal window that looks like an application. So we're going back to the code. So I said already, like, we store this in SQLite, so that's a really simple schema. I'm just going real quick over that. So there's like a single gen server, that's the model. It has a start link where it creates actually the table if it doesn't exist. Then it has a couple of functions like toggling the to-do from ready to still to-do. And then we can delete the to-do, we can add the to-do, and we can fetch all the to-dos. And important here is the Phoenix pops up integration is like every time we change any of the to-dos, we do the broadcast to the topic so that we know it changed. And we also have the subscribe function here so that it's easy to subscribe to the model here. So super simple, basic example. Now the second part is actually what we have seen. This is opening the web view. So this is our nice window here. Creating that content here from top left to top, bottom right is actually really easy. It's like really just like 2 lines of code. It's like one to create the web view and another one to load the URL. But there's a whole bunch of boilerplate that belongs to this WX library. And unfortunately, that is pretty cumbersome and also has like some finickies around platforms. So for example, here's like a macOS workaround to make the icon appear right. And even though this is supposed to be a cross-platform library, if you do it a different way, it might look well on Windows and might look well on Linux, but it doesn't look well on macOS. So there's still some of these discrepancies in it. Would be really nice to have a strong Elixir wrapper around this. It just hides these details. I mean, if someone of you has too much time, it would be really great to work on that together a bit more. So this is then how it looks like. So the first line was we create the web view. The second one is we do the load URL, and then we ask it to show, so it actually pops up. And that's important because we can actually close the window, and then we want to be able to reopen it. So if I click here, I close the window, then there's a little icon up here. I want to open it again, and then it comes back and should appear again. So there we go. So that works well. And with that, we also get to the next one. We want an icon, right? So we want an icon on macOS, an icon on Linux, an icon on Windows. So for that, we have this WX taskbar icon. And also that was working actually before as well already, but only on Linux and Windows. It didn't work on macOS. With OTP 24, this is also working on macOS again. And so you can assign that a taskbar, you can give it a menu, and then it's going to be there and it's going to pop up a menu that you can interact with. Pretty simple. It usually works here as a callback function, the UI menu, create menu, that returns like a list of menu items inside there. And here we assign an icon. Oh, that was again the wrong button. So last but not least, we want to have some notification. So this notification is if you write an application that, like in our case, actually, we're syncing files. And so we want to inform the user there's like a new file updated. In the to-do application, what I did is every time you add a to-do right now, it will show you like a little message, like there's a new to-do added to your to-do list. So you know there's more work. And that's actually also pretty easy. You create a new notification. You can give it different flags, like what kind of notification it is. So information or warning or error. And you can also give it an action. Like in macOS, for example, if you give it an action, it will have over here on the right-hand side some buttons to dismiss it or trigger an action. Same with Windows, same with Linux, so they support that there. Here again, you see some frenemies here for macOS and Windows, and that is for macOS to have like the proper behavior and the right icon here, like we want our little to-do icon, that's what the same icon we would like to see here, we have to create an info.plist. So there's some platform-specific deployment steps that you have to do. Where you create a bundle, an application bundle, you put an info.plist file inside there, and macOS is looking at that. And similar in Windows. So this is a development app. So we just started basically with IEX, mixed start. And so we don't have a plist, and we get this white frame. And we also don't have, in Windows, you would need like a Windows model application ID. We don't have that either. And so it goes back, basically it sees, oh, this is an Erlang application, and there's somewhere erl.exe running it. And so it pops that here into the to-do. So to avoid that, we actually have to package it into a real application. I haven't shown that, so let's jump real quick here. So we have our to-do here, and then I say demonstrate notification. And then we have our, ooh, that's cut off in my, we just saw the documentation in the top right here that was cut off. I guess that's because of my screen recording here. But you get the idea. There's a lot of open challenges, but before we go there, I want to show like just the application working real quick. So we have done that. I wanted to show that actually this is really live view. So we can click here to enable that. All of that is going back and forth to the model. Also the application, because it's storing SQLite, it's persistent. And because it's live view, I can like use the icon up here, and I see these things are actually checked off. And if I check off the sample right now, then it will go down here as well at the same point in time and just uncheck it there as well, you see. And this is because of the pops up in live view, updating it in real time. So it's really easy to write nicely looking native applications that are always up to date in every field in every window that you have. Same of course here in macOS we have the same. So I have my checkbox here. I click that, and then it goes back. And of course I can drop it, and I can create another to-do. Cool. And there we see like this is the white icon, and we see like edit the to-do, here the pop-up, everything as we expected. So this sample is published. It's actually on this Git repo that I've linked here. GitHub.com diet chain, Elixir desktop example app. This includes everything you need. The problem is you need like this OTP24 branch. I've put a small README. If you have problems with that, if you're curious, just send me a message or open an issue, whatever you prefer. And Discord works as well, of course. There's this localhost workaround that is not as nice. I was looking a bit into something more native, like domain sockets on Linux, but then it wouldn't work on all platforms. So I'm actually curious. I don't know what Electron is doing there. So, but if you guys have an idea of somebody who's like, hey, this is much better way to communicate, I'm all ears. Then this is something that's not in the sample app, but that's actually possible, is live updating. Like it's with Erlang, it's so easy to write an application that's live updatable because all your code is actually in Beam files. And so without replacing the binaries and the Erlang and everything that's deployed, is you can just like go to maybe your GitHub releases, get the most recent Beam files, and live update your application. So that would be a really nice feature for the to-do app as well. And then this next one here, because now GitHub has actually support for building Windows on macOS and Linux in the CI, I think it would be really nice in this project to add the workflows to build them, the to-do.exe, so we get like the right icons and the right text, and also embed in info plist and have something that's easily clonable. In the end, I would really like to see this going, or make it with Elixir as easy to build a desktop application as it is today with Electron. Unfortunately, my time probably doesn't allow this, so I'm doing this proof of concept here and showing and sharing hopefully how things can fit together. But like the installers, and then how can we turn this into a library or into a framework is probably something that's still open there. And as I said, we're looking for people. So shoot me an email, Dominic@diet, if you're curious about this or curious about the other stuff we do, and then let's talk. So this is the end of my presentation. I'm happy to share anything more, and let me know if you have any questions. I'm checking in general right now. Look there. I see someone is typing, but I don't see any questions yet. I'm gonna give it 5 seconds off. And then if you have any questions later, let me know. And I'm gonna hand over back to Hugo. I'm going to stop.
Thank you, Dominic, for the talk. Thank you, everyone who was listening. And also thank you to Sultan. Basically, please, if you have any questions that you didn't manage to ask the speakers while the talk, feel free to join the Discord chat and ask those there, or maybe invite them to a voice room and talk directly to them. They should be hanging around for a little bit. But otherwise, as I said, thanks everyone for joining. I guess it's time to open your favorite beverage and go and socialize with the rest of the folks in Discord. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice rest of the month and see you next month. Bye.